Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Collaborative Edges, conversations to inspire initiatives across languages and cultures. I'm Quispe-Agnoli, the host of Collaborative Edges. Today, we will have a conversation with José Adrián Badillo and Osvaldo Sandoval, doctoral students of Hispanic Cultural Studies, who are featured in the short film, What Happens to a Dream Deferred, just released in the MSU Latinx Film Festival. We also have today Scott Boehm, director of the film and professor of Spanish and Global Studies at Michigan State University, and Peter Johnston, cinematographer and film editor. Welcome, Peter, Scott, José Adrián, and Osvaldo.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice to be here.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's start with a question for Scott and Peter, and about the film and the making of the film. Could you tell us a little bit about the history of this short film, and when did you start thinking about it? How long did it take to make it happen? And the inclusion of José Adrián and Osvaldo's stories in it. Scott?
Sure. Well, the history is very short. The inspiration happened in the fall, basically when Jeff Sessions announced that the DACA program would be rescinded. We were in the middle of organizing the film festival, and since part of the mission of the film festival is to provide a space to talk about issues of this sort, social and political issues that affect our communities through film, and we didn't have any film that touched on this particular issue and Dreamers in general or DACA. And because half of our organizing committee are actually DACA recipients, Oswaldo and Jose, it seemed like if we were going to be true to our mission as a festival, the best thing we could do is try to produce a film in a very short amount of time that could play at the festival that would highlight how this policy change affects us directly here at MSU and in the Lansing community.
Okay, and Peter?
Scott approached me in November with two questions. One, did I know a student who would be good to sort of cover the festival in a general way with some videotaping? And two, would I be interested in making this film? Knowing how tight of a timeline it was and how busy we both are, and everybody is, of course. So it didn't take me too long to deliberate before I told him, we do need to make this film. And setting about trying to figure out, well, what will the film be? And Scott had a very clear vision from the start that it would be a day in the life, a sort of portrait of these people in limbo, what it's like to actually be, a person living under this cloud, this uncertainty of the future, and not a video, not a news report. And not as numbers, not as political pawns, but as people. So, throughout the construction of the film, we've tried to stay true to that vision, and I think we pulled it off.
Okay. Peter, could you tell us a little bit about your role in the making of the film?
Sure. So, Scott had the vision, and I did the cinematography and the editing. So, we decided a few different kind of visual, the aesthetic of the film, and what we would try to cover. So some of their teaching, some of their home life, the campus. They're sort of being embedded in the culture of MSU, the campus here, and then try to sort of pull that off visually with a cohesive kind of look to the film. And then the editing was really a back and forth. The film is in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, so Scott really constructed the narrative through their interview, and then we worked together to piece together the visuals.
Yes, and Scott, how did you do to build that narrative? Because you are the writer also of the.
Well,
of the
sure, yeah. I
film.
think first we had. I think Pete did a really good job laying out the vision for the film. And when we did the filming, which was just over a couple of days, we didn't have much time to work with, we shot a few things very consciously, knowing that we wanted them to be the bookends of the film, the beginning and the end. And they're very long shots that you'll see if you have a chance to see the film. And I knew that I wanted to slow down time in the film. Even though it's a short film, I really wanted to use the medium of film to take a pause. There's breaking news, there's updates on the DACA situation constantly. Everybody in this room has been following that for months. And I wanted to offer something that would be involved in that process, but a step back, so that audiences would really have to experience what it's like to be in limbo. That's what we wanted to get across. So there was a serendipitous thing that happened on Pete's end that I didn't know about until I started reviewing the footage, which really allowed us to make the final film that we did. And Pete started filming certain things in slow motion. And so without talking about that. And so when I saw that, I knew that we had enough of that material to end up making the film that we made.
Okay. Thank you. Now I would like to turn to José Adrián and Osvaldo. Your stories are told in this short film. So I would like for you to tell us why telling your story, sharing your story now and in this way. José Adrián?
Well, we thought that presenting what a normal day in our lives is was going to be the best way to show people that we are just like everyone else here. You know, we both have jobs, we have families, we have work to do, and we don't want to be portrayed as, you know, these immigrants who are rapists, who are criminals, who are, you know, all this rhetoric that has been used against immigrants. We wanted to show that we are part of this community, not only the MSU community, but the Lansing community, and we're not numbers. So we wanted to be able to portray just like, you know, anyone else gets up in the morning, gets some breakfast, goes to work, comes home to their family. And we wanted to show that so that people don't see us as numbers, as a political...
Statistics,
exactly.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so we figured that was a good way to do it. And also, on a personal level, I felt like I had to be proactive about it because this whole issue with DACA is happening, and I couldn't just sit back and wait to see what would happen. I wanted to at least know that no matter what happens on March 5th, when they gave that initial deadline, that I know at least I tried to do something.
Yeah.
So it's like a personal battle.
Absolutely. Osvaldo?
I agree with Jose with everything he just said. And I also wanted to add that for some reason in the past, when we were granted the opportunity to have a working permit, a social security number, we were kind of grateful in a way. So we didn't speak up at the moment because we were like, okay, this is enough. That's what we want to work. We want to have a social security so we can continue with our education, etc. So our voices were not as loud as today because of what's been. We are being used as a political weapon for both sides of the politics right now. So I think since the last election, November 2016, we said it's enough. It's enough. We need to do something about it. We need to change it. It's not only like if they continue with DACA. I mean, something has to happen in a permanent level. And that's why, I mean, we've been doing interviews with the state news and the film, etc. But I just wanted to remark also that I think the documentary does a great job trying to portray that we just, as Jose said, like just like normal people. We can say normal, like we are not criminals or. I mean, we're doing what every other person.
Yes, it works against that narrative
Yes.
that was built or started to be reinforced about Mexicans or Mexican Americans or anyone coming from the South,
Yes, yes.
or Latin America in general, that, and I include myself there as a
Yes.
Peruvian, that we are not the average American decent citizen. So
Yes.
it's and I understand that there is a moment you're negotiating because you're getting basic things to continue your life, but there is a moment that it's exactly what you said, Osvaldo, that when your situation is used as a weapon, and then it's moment to stand up,
And
speak up.
I was
Yeah,
a little,
be
I
loud.
was a little scared at the beginning because I didn't want the documentary to be portrayed as a political weapon from our side, like to
Yeah.
say we didn't want to use DACA as a political weapon, and the short film actually. It doesn't do that. Like it's just
Yes.
portraying like a daily life. We don't want to be defined by being DACA recipients. We want to be recognized by the work we do in school, out of school, with our families. We don't want to say, oh, they're DACA, they deserve a special treatment. They're great
Exactly,
people
yes.
just because they're DACA. We don't want that.
Yes.
We don't need that.
Yeah. And a question for the two of you and also for Scott, would you put this short film in the category of testimonial? Or not necessarily? Or it's on the way of
Yeah,
in
it's
that
definitely
direction.
a form of testimonial. I hadn't thought about it in those
Yes.
terms. I don't know what you feel in terms of that. I
I
mean,
started thinking about testimonial when I watched it last night.
Sure, yeah,
Well,
well,
it's very descriptive. I like the approach. I like that it's not presented as a political weapon. I like that. And then, I kept thinking about
Yeah.
it. So
Right.
I have no answer to that.
Right. Well, it's an interesting experience because we, Pete and I, finished up in the editing lab midnight, and then we debuted it last night. About. I don't know how many hours later. So we haven't had time to process it and really think about it. So in the Q&A afterwards, a few people had their own takes on what something meant and interpreting it, and everything makes sense. Even what you're saying now makes sense. We just haven't had time to process it
Yes.
ourselves. So I think, that could very well be true. But just like any artistic endeavor, the interpretations sometimes come later. And so we had a clear vision. I think we carried it out really well, and people will have different readings. But what Osvaldo and Jose are communicating here in terms of their experience of the film, which they also saw for the first time last night, was really a goal that we had. We wanted to depict human dignity, a day in the life, and that's enough, as Osvaldo is saying,
Mm-hmm. Another question for you, Scott, because this will help other people that would like to go, follow your example. This is your directorial debut, and tell us about it and how you and Peter got to work together in such a short period of time and in spite of busy agendas and lives.
Sure. Well, it is my directorial debut, but I have made a short film before. I did a lot of work around video and film with the Spanish Civil War Memory Project, which I did as a graduate student along with professor and several other graduate students at UC San Diego. So for years, I was recording testimonies of survivors of Francoist repression, Spanish Civil War, and I helped produce and write and direct a short film to promote that. But nothing on this level. That was very project specific. And I also helped work on some British television and Spanish news work as well. So I have some background that I bring to this. I also studied screenwriting for quite a while in Spain, and worked on The Cliff also at the level of the script. So this was the first opportunity I had to see a short film from beginning to end. And that in itself was great because I do have a few unfinished projects that Pete's aware of. And so I had met Pete through that and had wanted to do something together with him and complete something with him. And we were able to do that real quick. Thanks very much to his willingness to set personal things aside and make a few sacrifices so that we could make this film on time.
Good. Peter, anything to add to that?
Just that, I had sort of consulted with Scott on some of his other projects, so I was excited when he when he presented the opportunity, and I think that we kept the scope within ambitious but within our limits, and that was the key. Really, was just to sort of work closely together, and with José and Osvaldo, and we did it. We completed it.
Good. Congratulations for that. I know it's not a small feat. And our last question goes to José Adrián and Osvaldo. What advice would you give to other dreamers who are not sure of sharing their stories in a public forum or speak up in this moment? José Adrián.
Well, I mean, I've been here for 18 years, and out of those 18 years, maybe 16 years, I was told to, stay quiet, stay low, don't bring any attention to you, because not having papers or having DACA might affect you, or people might target you in one way or another. And to that extent, it is true. I mean, we live in fear of, being targeted. But I mean, I understand when other dreamers don't want that attention, but at the same time, I feel like if we don't do anything as dreamers together, if we don't unite and say, this is what's happening to us, we have to speak up about it, then I feel like Congress is not going to pay much attention to the types of things that we do, the types of careers that we have, or jobs, where we work. There are many, many people who are DACA recipients who own their own businesses, or who work for big companies like Google, Amazon. So they are important people in many different industries. But those are people that are older and they're more mature about it. And we still have students in high schools that are afraid of this. And I understand them not wanting to share their experiences, but at the same time, I would like to, invite them to at least, come out and say, we are part of this community. And not only my family, but, just in the town where they live, the schools where they go to, and sharing their experiences they might tell a message that might be spread to other people. And together, I think we can do something about it. We can improve our situation or speak up.
Okay, Osvaldo?
Yes, we actually tried to do this series of workshops when everything happened back in September 5th. We tried to bring together the Lansing community because we know that there are more DACA recipients out there in Lansing. We tried to work with the community. We went there for 3 times, waiting for them to show up, and it was just like a space for like a safe place for.
It was a Cristo Rey.
Yes. And unfortunately, nobody showed up, even though we knew there were more. And we respect that because they live in fear. As Jose said, we live in fear. And we cannot make them do something they don't want to. But on the other hand, if they don't know that we're here, there is not going to be a social movement. Nothing is going to happen. We're targets, yes, but we've been targets for years. It could be more delicate at this because of the recent situation, the political situation. But if we are being already threatened the way we have, I don't know. In my opinion, there's not much to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, they already have all of our information,
yes,
where
exactly.
we work, where we live.
Yeah. That's right. So, I mean, if they really want us, if they want to do something against us, they can easily do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I need to conclude this conversation now, and I'd like to thank our guests today and invite you to the presentation of What Happens to a Dream Deferred on February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th before the feature films at the MSU Latinx Film Festival. For more information about this festival, visit MSU Latinx Film Festival.com. And finally, the ideas and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of the College of Arts and Letters, any of our sponsors, or any official entities of Michigan State University. I also want to thank technical producer Daniel Trego. Tune in for our next podcast on migration studies and the humanist perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.